Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for today or tomorrow or Wednesday or Saturday or Friday, but just whenever, because after all, it's your podcast. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was graced by the presence of the rather wonderful Isaac Vega from Plaid Hat Games, or Plaid Hat. You know, tomato. But we've kind of gone one further because I'm joined today by a man who I've already said to him off the show, but he's responsible for pretty much getting my kids kind of interested in the hobby. He's a gentleman who has moved from, I guess, little rodents with swords to little stuffed things fighting against nightmares, and now he's on a journey through into the subconscious mind itself. I am joined by the rather wonderful, the rather fantastic Jerry Hawthorne from Plaid Hat Games. So, hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted. You know, it's Christmas again. It's just, it can't get any kind of better than that. For people who haven't listened to the show before, the reason that we do this is quite simple, is we just like to speak to people from various parts of the hobby, be they designers, developers, artists. And the other reason that we like to do this is because Isaac said, you can maybe get Jerry on the show. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I dropped him an email and he said, yeah. So, you know, quite excited by that. I guess the first thing to touch on is kind of, we like to find out a little bit about how you got into the hobby kind of in the first place. So do you maybe want to touch on kind of that a bit, about how you kind of first got involved?
Sure. I can go through my little origin story there of how I got into it. First of all, I've been a board gamer my whole life, and RPG gamer pretty much my whole life. When I was a kid, at a really young age, my older brother was very much into the sort of war games with the hexagons and the little cardboard chits and stuff, like Squad Leader and you know, all these old World War II era strategy games and stuff. And he basically taught me and my younger brother when we were young how to play those games, so he would have somebody to play against. And so I was sort of raised on Squad Leader and Crescendo of Doom and then Starfleet Battles. Have you ever played Starfleet Battles?
I've heard of it, but I've not played it myself.
It's kind of old school, complex simulation style hex grid games. So I guess I just that bonding experience with my older brother. I was sold from a very young age on that experience, and so then I've always played board games. I come from a board game playing family, and but later on, I got into Dungeons and Dragons and other RPGs, and I just I love that sort of imaginative kind of play.
Yeah,
I love crafting stories, and I always love being a dungeon master or a game master on any of those systems and stuff. And then when I became a father, when I found out my wife was pregnant and I was going to have a son, I really wanted to introduce him to some of the games that I sort of grew up on and stuff. And I started looking around for games and for young kids, or to games that would like bring children into our style of gaming, more hobby style of gaming.
Yeah.
And I ran across this game that was about to be released by Hasbro called HeroScape. And
Rings
you
a
familiar
bell,
with that one?
Yeah, no, that definitely rings a bell. Yeah.
Yes, it was a big, awesome strategy board game disguised as a toy, pretty much. And so I really, I mean, I fell in love with the game. I bought 2 copies, one for each of my nephews, and my son hadn't been born yet. And then I was always looking around for information about the game prior to it being released, and I found a website popped up one day. And so it was like the best friend of one of the guys that designed the game, HeroScape, had put together a little website, community forum, a little community fan website.
All right.
And just to kind of support his friend who was a board game designer. And I stumbled upon that website when it first popped up, and I joined the forums. I was one of the first 3 or 4 people on the forums, and I actually got to meet over the internet. I got to meet the designer Craig Van Ness and Rob Davio, and struck up a rapport with them. And the Craig Van Ness gave me his email and asked me to, when I played it with my nephews, to like send him an email and let him know how it goes.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's basically what I did. I wrote him this long email about all my observations of and all the fun I had playing that game with my nephews. And then he responded and he said, "Keep them coming," And so I did. And then he fairly soon after that asked me to become a playtester.
Wow.
And so I started playtesting for Hasbro, and the game became real popular there for a little while. And so they ended up hiring me and a colleague of mine to actually design the little figures to go into the game. And
that's
so
amazing.
Sometimes they would just give us a name. Sometimes they would give us a name and a little sketch of what they wanted the abilities to be like and stuff. But it was our job to just put them through the test. So I guess being a content developer was my first experience as a professional in the world of board game design.
Was it kind of cool to be kind of like getting directly involved in something that you picked off the shelf? Because normally, I guess in any other hobby, you don't usually have a direct effect or an influence on that product. I mean, you wouldn't like go and buy a VCR and then go on a forum and end up kind of like speaking directly to maybe the design manner of the manufacturer. You say, well, actually, I like, have you thought about front loading instead of top loading, Mr. Sony? But I guess, I didn't know, when I was growing up with the type of toys, I mean, you're talking like your Buckaroos and everything like this. I only got into kind of like, Milton Bradley did a massive, beautiful range of board games when I was growing up, like Lost Valley of the Dinosaurs, and they did Hotel as well, and obviously Escape from Atlantis as well. That and those are the kind of games that got me involved in the board. I didn't realize at the time, with you saying what you said, that you were actually directly involved. Was that kind of cool? Did you it must have been quite cool to like know that you were affecting things, that you were having an influence and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was supremely cool. It was surreal, in fact, to think that, to walk into Walmart and see the stuff on the shelves that I had worked on, that was really, really quite something. It was a very big source of pride for me. And then not only that, but, to be a lifelong board game enthusiast, to actually be doing something behind the curtain was really cool. And I'd done a little bit of playtesting on a few game systems prior to that. So it wasn't like I hadn't gotten my foot kind of in the door. And I was always a natural tinkerer. So I don't know if you remember this Milton Bradley game called Hero Quest, but that's like one of my most favorite games of all time. And so I created tons of content for that. And back when we used to send things through the regular mail, we would, make our own expansions and then print them off and send them to each other in the mail and stuff.
Did you get the box that had the actual dungeon design kind of quest? Because they got to the point where they released like Keller's Keep, and they released like the Against the Ogre Horde, but then they came out with the actual Adventurer's Toolkit, which had a pad of stickers on it, and it was just like a blank grid. You remember the grid kind of campaigns, and you had stickers on that. Did you get that, or were you just like
They didn't have. I
going
don't think
free.
that was a U.S. release. That was a European release, along with the Ogre Horde.
Yeah.
The Wizards of Morcar, Ogre Horde, Adventures Design Kit. Those are all European releases.
What did you guys get in the States then?
We got Keller's Keep, the Witch Lord, and we also got the Barbarian and the Elf expansion.
Wow, I've never ever seen. I've actually had in my collection the other ones, the Wizard of Morcar, the Against the Ogre Horde. I've never seen the Elf or the Barbarian expansions. In fact, I didn't know they existed before you took it.
Oh wow!
Kind of told, yeah. I mean, it was.
Well, you see, here's the thing. I have all of that stuff. I actually have the Elf and the Barbarian still in the shrink wrap. So
really.
Yes, but so my collection is beautiful, but my U.S. collection. But one thing that is very, very special about me is that I also got to meet Stephen Baker because of my ties to Hasbro. I got to meet Stephen Baker, who is the guy that basically designed Hero Quest, and but I also got to meet a lot of the people that actually worked on Hero Quest back when it was in print. And I've gotten to see some of the unreleased material.
Now you're just showing off. Now you're just showing off.
I actually know what they were going to release, but they never did. I know that information.
I just wonder if Hero Quest had kind of been released, because I think what happened is it kind of got released, and then people seemed to jump from Hero Quest, and then there was Space Crusade, but then Games Workshop kind of played a blinder at that time and kind of sneaked in and went, oh, do you like little plastic miniatures and dice? Well, Advanced Hero Quest came out, and there was Hero Quest Advanced, which was kind of like had the Men at Arms kind of expansion in it, but then there was Advanced Hero Quest, Space Crusade, and then Games Workshop kind of came in and started releasing magazines to say, okay, here's some additional expansions, and that took people into your kind of like your Warhammer kind of 40,000 and stuff like that.
That's right.
I mean, what was your kind of your next steps after here? I mean, how long did you continue to work alongside the guys when they were doing Heroescape then? We
did that from 2005 all the way through to like 2009.
Wow.
In 2009, see, they had given the license over to one of their subsidiaries, and so we were working for Wizards of the Coast, doing a Dungeons and Dragons version of Hero Quest, and so that I was part of the team that did the Dungeons and Dragons version, and then and that was about when they started phasing it out. And that was about the same time that I started working on Mice and Mystics in 2009. I was working on Mice and Mystics on my own, and a friend of mine that had worked at Hasbro with me, Colby Dowk, he's my studio manager here at Plaid Games, but he went and spun off and started his own game company and launched Summoner Wars, which is Plaid Hat's first game. And so that was sort of my connection and how I got Mice and Mystics published through him.
Where's the idea? I mean, when you were talking earlier on, you were talking about kind of like your son, coming into the world. Was Mice and Mystics almost like your version of Hero Quest for him when you kind of first started designing it?
I started designing it because my daughter was struggling to learn how to read. And, and I had this audacious idea that I would help her learn how to read by creating a game where you could do a little bit of reading and then play a little bit of activity, and then so I could break the reading up into little smaller chunks and break it up with an activity like gameplay, because she would get real fidgety when she was trying to read, and so she would need to like take frequent breaks, and so I thought that would be a neat idea to come up with a game. And she was really into mice, and I was really into Hero Quest, so I basically made a mouse version of Hero Quest.
I have a sword. There you go. Have a sword. Was it difficult to get the mice to hold the swords? Did you have to tie it
back when
on
we
to
were
them.
using real mice, it was really tough. Really tough.
That must have been a difficult pitch to Colby when you were like saying, "Well, how do you ship these? Why have the boxes got holes in them, Jerry?" It's like, "Oh no, wait, this is the USP." And why are we not pitching these to Walmart? Why are we pitching these to Pets at Home? Just watch this.
Yeah, pet stores. Pet stores are buying them up in large amounts.
No, because one of the striking things about, for me, it was that whole attraction of the fact that this was generally, the flavor text is called the flavor text because it's the flavor text. It gives you the reason why your character looks a certain way. For Mice and Mystics, and I said this off kind of episode to you, was one of the first games that, me and my kids kind of enjoyed playing together. And one of the things was that it was kind of interwoven, that the story was equally as important to kind of playing the game, which kind of gave it that additional magical quality. And it also meant it wasn't necessarily going to be a dark, as a dark game. It was obviously meant to be something that you enjoyed. It also pushed you on to wanting to play kind of like the next chapter as well. Was that kind of in your thinking as well, was to have kind of like encouragement there to kind of keep, I guess, your daughter interested in kind of moving on?
Yeah. I mean, it sort of took on a life of its own. We at the time we didn't know that my daughter had a learning difference, and so we had taken her to a neurologist, and they basically, told me that she had a visual processing disorder very similar to dyslexia, and that really no amount of board game design was really going to help her with that.
Yeah.
We ended up having to have her some special glasses made for her and stuff, and even to this day, she still struggles a little bit with reading, and her eyes just don't track smoothly. So it makes reading really hard. She misses words and letters. But the game had sort of taken on a life of its own, and I had discovered within me a passion for writing the story, and I'd gotten the story all fleshed out in my mind, and it was something I just really needed to express. And for me, since I'm not a writer, I'm more into board games as a hobby. And at that time, I was actually doing a lot of stuff professionally in the board game world. It just was a natural fit for me to express myself through the language of board games. And so for me, when I was fully rendering out my idea for Mice and Mystics, I really wanted to create a game that delivered on the story, because that was the thing that I really like most about playing role-playing games and adventure games and stuff, is I really like to have that little bit of story, I love the way that in Hero Quest, every mission was different and it matched whatever theme of the little story that you were on, Every quest was a little bit different. And I love that, how they use the same components, but they recycled everything so cleverly that you always felt like it was a fresh, new chapter in the story. And so that's where I went with Mice and Mystics, where I wanted it to feel that very same way, but even taken to a bigger degree, not shying away from the story.
There's one of the things that I noticed about Mice and Mystics is that there was mechanics that were in that were like, say, single use kind of mechanics for some of the parts of the story. Was there a lot of stuff that you had to reduce and strip out as you went through it? Did you?
One of the big challenges of designing a game that tells a story is that you find yourself extremely confined by the actual mechanics of the game itself. And you're trying to tell this story, and you're like, oh, there's a big action sequence, or this is a big romantic sequence, or whatever. And you realize that the game mechanics don't support all of that. And so what I did with Mice and Mystics, in sort of a ham-fisted kind of way, is if you were on a page that had a special rule, I'd put a special rule there, and then you would have to just use that rule for that one special page. But like one of the things, the connections that I didn't make is if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to write these special rules for these special situations, then I should probably make the core rules, quite a bit more streamlined, so that you don't also have to remember those. And there were some areas of the rule book that had little rules in there that you didn't use very often, so you'd forget them and you'd have to look them up in the rule book.
Yeah.
That was why I took a different approach with Stuffed Fables, where the rule book is very small. You read it once, you don't really have to go back and look up that much stuff, because the core mechanics are just very, very, very flexible. And then and then if I need to put any special rules in, I can either put it on the page, or I can, have a little card that, whenever we encounter water, then we put the water card out, and that way you don't have to clog up the book with it. And, if it's an edge case and it just happens every once in a while, you just throw the card out.
Yeah. I mean, were you surprised about the reception that Mice and Mystics received? Because at the time, I mean, anybody you mention it to, they go, yes, it's absolutely beautiful. The clock, the slices of cheese, even the miniatures, everything. It's a beautiful kind of looking game. Were you kind of quietly confident when it was going out there that this was going to be
No, I think I was more naive than anything. Like, I didn't have I didn't even have the fear and reservations that I have nowadays, It was, I guess I was just sort of innocent, and I'm like, wow, I'm making a board game, and I spent countless hours working on it. Those are moments that I'll never ever forget. I mean, I remember I bought this yellow resin that was like clay that you could do whatever you wanted with it, and then you baked it in the oven and it would get hard, and it was yellow. So I had a rolling pin. I rolled out this stuff really thin, and then I took a round cookie cutter, and I cut out these round shapes, and I cut them like a pizza into little cheese wedges. And I took the back end of a paintbrush, and I made little dots in the cheese, and I baked it in the oven. And then I realized that in my effort to make this cheese, I was creating cheese wheels, right?
Yeah.
I know it sounds dumb, but at that time the cheese wheel wasn't a mechanic in the game yet. And I realized that six cheese wedges, makes a perfect wheel. And then I was like, well, this could be a timer in the game that I could use it for a lot of different things. I could have this cheese wheel fill up. And so, I mean, that was just happenstance that happened.
But things sometimes really click to place, Some things do just happen or click into place. Sometimes it's like I'll speak to a lot of people and they'll just say, so how did you come up with that mechanic? It's just, I don't know. It kind of happened, but it kind of worked at the time. It's like the other thing was the initiative track. Now, obviously, that comes from now, At the time, my kids thought this was a magical thing. And it's like they also thought sometimes it was a pain because they thought, well, all of a sudden we're going to have to face 3 rats and, and a centipede before they can actually get the turn. But obviously, that's from the kind of the D&D days, kind of, they'll kind of roll to initiative. How long after? Because Mice and Mystics had the expansions, and then there was is it Tail Feathers? So yeah, what made you decide to go down kind of that route? Because that's obviously completely different. Was that looking at kind of obviously there was the X-Wings at the time and Wings of War? Were you looking to kind of do something along that ilk, or was it?
Sure. Just something. I like those kinds of games. That when I started designing Tail Feathers, I didn't really have. I wasn't trying to make X-Wing or Wings of War or anything, but I really wanted to have a flying game, and I wanted to do something different. I like doing stuff that is just different, and I don't know. Nobody had ever done birds before, and I had this idea of this tilt mechanic, which I thought was really cool. So you could sort of, if you're going to tilt one way, then that's the way that you fly, and that visual. As you're playing the game of Tail Feathers, it's really cool because it anybody who walks by the table and sees all these birds flying around and all these trees and all these critters running around on the branches of the trees, they immediately see a a still frame from a big action, big epic action scene. I really love that. It's kind of like, to me, it's like a form of art where you're creating this little vignette of an action scene.
And you also know exactly what you're getting when you look at the game. If you're standing over the table, then you can instantly get a snapshot, and it can help you make a decision. It draws you in to say, wow, I want to actually see how this all ties in together and how all the mechanics on this kind of works as well. I mean, in terms of with Plata, I mean, when Mice and Mystics came around, did Colby just bring you in then and just say, okay, you're involved in the company? Or, because when I spoke to Isaac, he said he was in as a while on almost like a freelance basis, and then he was brought in as kind of like an employee. Was that the same thing as yourself, or were you in at Plaid Hat pretty much quite early on after kind of Summoner Wars kind of came about?
Well, Colby, the head guy at Plaid Hat Games, he's a friend of mine. So, so we were pretty close, and so we would talk about stuff, and I was just a part. He was a part of my life. I was a part of his life, and so was Plaid Hat Games. And yes, I did do freelance work as far as Mice and Mystics is concerned. That that was a royalty paid kind of thing, and everything else that I did up until about 2 years ago was all freelance stuff. But there's also lots of stuff I did that weren't even that contributed to the company, but that weren't even like a paid sort of thing. Just being involved and being a fan of Plaid Hat Games while at the same time contributing to their success is basically what I've done since the beginning of the company, and even before then. But as of 2 years ago, I've been working full time for Plaid Hat Games, and that was my first game with them full time was Stuffed Fables.
Where did you get the idea for Stuffed Fables? Was it almost like an evolution of what you did next with Mice? Because, not being funny, but the way that Mice and Mystics kind of plays is you were moving from page to page as you were playing it in order to digest the rules and everything that was there. Stuffed Fables seemed to be the case that you were moving. You were doing pretty much the same thing, except rather than kind of building up the board of the modular pieces, you were actually just sticking the characters directly on almost like the book itself. So is that where it came about, or how did it kind of evolve?
Well, I really wanted to make a game that had the ability to have a wide variety of locations where you find your characters at, and getting tired of the limitations of having board pieces and stuff like that. Getting tired of that limitation, I wanted a game where I could tell a dynamic story. And so I had this idea that I could have a book of maps, and then I could have another book that would be where all the story is kept. And I had this really cool idea. I came and I pitched the idea to Colby, my boss, and his first thing out of his mouth was like, "Why two separate books? Why not just put them together into one book?" That's what I would like to see. Put them together into one book. And I'm like, oh boy. And it created a whole bunch of new challenges to figure out. But I mean, I'm up to those kinds of challenges. I thought it was a compelling challenge. Like, if we could do this would be something new and different. And so I immediately started sort of redesigning the game so that it could work inside of a book. And it just, for some reason, it just came flowing out of me. This idea really works. These are the concessions that I have to make to do it, but this is really working. You get all these other benefits of just having everything self-contained in this book. And it's neat, the fog of war effect that you get from not knowing what's coming on the next page and everything. To watch kids, to watch their anticipation as mom's turning the page to the new, to wherever they're going, and they don't know what they're going to encounter when they get there, and then they see, and they're trying to decode what's going to happen. That kind of interest, just watching that, observing that with children, it's an amazing thing.
But I mean, mention children, but I mean, one of the fans and outspoken fans that I know is Andy Lewis from Polyhedron Collider.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just loves stuffed fables. He goes on about it all the time. He's not a kid, and he's not got he's not got kids.
If you create a game that can give adults that childlike feeling too, for a lot of adults like myself, it's a good feeling. It's a really, really warm, wholesome feeling. And so, yes, I totally understand what he's talking about, because I like all that stuff too.
Yeah.
And I love the idea. I'm like extremely proud of the idea, this concept that I'm helping create, tomorrow's board game fans. I'm helping create this new generation of youngsters who are going to grow up and have board gaming is going to be an interest of theirs, because they got introduced to it as a child, and those indelible memories that my games create will be with them for their lives.
And in terms of like the actual look and feel, I mean, because Stuffed Fables it's a stunning looking game, and it must be at least every month there'll be a post in some kind of Facebook group to say, I got Stuffed Fables last month, here's all the figures all kind of painted up. I mean, did you work quite closely in terms of the art and the design of the figures and the characters that were involved to?
Yes, but I'm at Plaid Hat Games, where we have Isaac Vega, who is, he's like our creative art director kind of guy. His brother Sam, art direction and stuff. So like when you look at Stuffed Fables and you see how everything looks, you have to understand that this is my vision mixed with Sam's vision, mixed with Isaac's vision, mixed with our graphic designers. Isaac found this wonderful artist who did the art, this Pauline, that did the art for Stuffed Fables and created the look of those little stuffed animals and stuff. She has this unique style to her art that just makes everything feel so lived in. The color coordination between the artists and the graphic art design team, that color coordination is why you have that. You look at it and you see this beautiful artistic package that's all together. The cover of the box, Isaac sketched that out himself and created that look of the cover of the box, and had Pauline, the artist, render it out. Like all this stuff is like a big team effort. So as much as I, would love to take credit for all of that, most of that stuff it had little to do with me, because everybody gets involved in a project like this, and that's when they get really good, is when everybody's involved.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's helped in general kind of make Plaid Hat kind of the company that people kind of keep going back to and picking up the older titles? Picking back the older stuff that you've got, because you've got a very, very loyal fan base. And as I think I said to Isaac, if I go down the list of games that you've made, you're not like the Cool Mini or Not kind of game where you're just doing miniature games. I mean, if I look down, you've got things like Spectre Ops, then you've got Summoner Wars, then you've got Ashes, then you've got City of Remnants, then you've got Mice and Mystics. They're kind of maybe genres that maybe a company would tackle the same genre again and again and again. And do you think that's maybe part of the continued kind of success?
Maybe. I mean, I think that there's a few things that we're known for. Number one is that we're all very visual, so we want our games to have a certain look to them. We want them to like have that when they're on the table and they're all laid out. We want them to have that visual appeal, so that it looks like like for instance with Mice and Mystics, I was adamant that I wanted it to look as if the little mice were like playing on the artwork. I didn't want to have a bunch of grids and lines. I wanted it to feel like very organic. And these decisions that we make, we make them because we have this artistic calling, I think, this creative calling. And we have a boss who he, instead of like squelching that, he fosters that. And that means that we're always taking risks here, and we're always taking risks there, and we're always trying new things and pushing the edges of what has been done before and what can be done with board games. And all of our games always have a lot of very rich storytelling and world building to them as well. So I think those are the things that our fans are attracted to.
Yeah.
A lot of them have the same kind of board game sensibilities as we do,
Yeah. I don't mean to kind of like be the kind of the sycophantic blowing smoke up your butt kind of guy, but it's like when you go on and if you look at the stuff that you guys are continually kind of pushing out, it's really, really kind of high quality. And people seem to really kind of enjoy the games, but it also seems to be like, say, like Stuffed Fables, it's kind of constantly in the background. There's always somebody picking it up. There's always somebody bringing it up. There's always somebody mentioning it or reference it or doing like a quick playthrough or a quick review. Whereas what I see in the Kickstarter world is that you get, loud noises and then it just kind of shrinks away. And I think that's testament to kind of what you're doing. With moving on to say like Comanauts, are you okay? My connection to the question is you've got obviously is it Gen 7, which was connected to kind of the which is sorry, you got Gen 7, which was using the Crossroads system, and then which for Dead of Winter. You've then obviously got Stuffed Fables, which is some tie-in with almost like a similar system to kind of Comanauts. Was that what you were thinking? Were you wanting to do something different with? You obviously had a really good system with Stuffed Fables. So was that your idea to say, well, can I do something different using the similar kind of base kind of mechanic kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean the mechanics that Stuffed Fables uses, those mechanics. I created those not for Stuffed Fables. I created those actually for Comanauts. But
all right, okay.
Yes. So, but what happened is I ran into some design limitations in Comanauts. I couldn't quite bring my vision about, and I also had like some tragedies and stuff happen in my own family, and I just didn't really feel like writing a story that was so personal like that one. And so I had a hard time writing that story, but I had this good set of mechanics that is designed to be really flexible. And when I came up with this idea to have this book of maps and have this other book of stories, and my boss wanted me to put them together into one book, I had this story in my mind of these stuffed animals that came to life at night. And I just used the mechanics that I created for Comanauts. I used them for this game, and it was a perfect fit because that's what that mechanic was designed to do, is like to be able to take different stories and tell them and have them feel, you can manipulate the mechanics here and there and make it feel, harder or easier or, more complex or whatever, but you still have this core set of mechanics that's very flexible. You could tell lots of different kinds of stories. And so that's how Stuffed Fables came about. Was basically taking a break from writing Comanauts.
Yeah. Okay.
And then after Stuffed Fables hit the market, after it was done, deciding what my next game was going to be, I had several options, and I decided to go ahead and get Comanauts out there because it's a very personal story that I wanted to tell. I just wanted to get it out there and make this sort of mark on the world and see how it does. The idea behind these adventure book games is that we can tell tons of different kinds of stories using the same kind of concept.
I mean, Comanauts hasn't been out that long.
No.
So
a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks.
And I mean, how does it play? I mean, if somebody's been saying, well, I'm trying to imagine Comanauts, Stuffed Fables. the similar system on the table, how would it actually play? If I was going to go and pick it up for the first time, what kind of gameplay? How would I play it? What would I expect I'd be playing? I mean, is it more grown up? Is it?
It's an action adventure game.
Yeah.
So, but it takes place inside of the fractured mind, imagination of this genius who's in a coma, and you're trying to bring him out of the coma by tracking down his inner child and having interactions with his inner child and trying to bring him out of his coma. You find out that he's being held in his coma by his own inner demons. These are unresolved aspects of his life that have left little scars or traumas on his psyche. And you can go in there and release him from their grip by doing battle with those, like a boss in a video game or something, doing battle with those and interacting with his inner child and getting the information you need to save the world. It's a huge psychedelic, trippy action adventure with poignant moments that parallel some of the experiences that most people deal with in real life. The idea is that you could go in and just in this fantasy wild adventure, you can go in and help somebody rid themselves of these inner demons that are holding them back in life, and that metaphorically is healing for everybody involved.
Okay.
There's like 11 different inner demons, and they're all based upon just the same kind of things that might hold a person back in life. Things, moments of trauma from their life, like grief and selfishness and guilt, shame. All these things that might hold somebody back in life. Well, you can go in and help this coma victim deal with those. And as you're in there, sort of like peeling layers off of an onion, you gradually learn more and more about who he is and what happened to his life,
Yeah. With it being kind of, I would say, a quite personal project to you, have a different approach to when you're kind of looking at how the reviews have gone for the game and things like that? Is it a bit more of a, I mean, obviously stuff Fables folks say, well, I don't like the way the teddy bear looks, kind of thing. You're like, oh, it's a teddy bear, okay, go. But is it a little bit more of a personal project for you that you're kind of saying, well, you're a bit more aware of kind of maybe the reception to it?
I'm not,
because it.
I'm not really aware of the reception to it yet. So,
all right, okay.
But I haven't seen any reviews or anything.
All right.
But there's not. I mean, when you put something out there, some people are going to like it and some people won't. So I don't know. I don't really know. But one thing I do know is, as a creator, when you go to express yourself, you have to be authentic as much as you can, and at some point you put your creation out there, and then you just hope for the best. I mean,
but again, I guess going on kind of Plaid Hat's reputation, you will get people that will just go ahead and take the risk and jump in to Comanauts because it is Plaid Hat, which is the pedigree that's kind of behind yourself. In terms of things like expansions for both maybe Stuffed Fables and for Comanauts, with the format being kind of like the book, does that make it easier to consider creating the expansions? Because you maybe it might cost a little bit less to produce the expansions themselves, or is that something you're kind of considering for both properties?
We had originally conceptualized the Adventure Books games as not being expansion driven.
Yeah.
We feel like the marketplace right now, everybody always seems to expect an expansion, but I'm not exactly sure that they are the most financially viable pursuit. I'm not. That's an area of expertise that's not really up to me. But I like to have a boss who is savvy and knows that stuff and tells me what they want me to deliver. So if my boss comes to me and says, "Hey, we really need an expansion for for Stuffed Fables, and I've already sort of been hearing rumblings of people wanting one. I'm ready. I got ideas out the, I got ideas all stacked up and ready to go. I have it locked and loaded. If he wants an expansion for Stuffed Fables, it's ready to go.
Comanauts, just have to press the
I don't think I'll do another Comanauts, because Comanauts was, very, very emotionally draining to actually make.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I want to just continue on. I really liked the way that the story is told, and it comes to a complete and total finish. I could see the idea of like having these Comanauts and they go inside these different people's minds, and I think that would be cool. But right now, I think that
just drawing a line under it, and that's it. Yeah,
we'll just have to see. I mean, if like I said, if my boss, I could see going into other people's minds, and so if my boss came to me and said, "Hey, man, the world wants another Comanauts. What do you think?" Then I could have 3 or 4 ideas waiting, locked and loaded and ready to go. But I'm working on a project right now, and so my nose is very much down on this project right now. My focus is entirely on what I'm working on right now. So.
And is that a departure from kind of Stuffed Fables, the Comanauts kind of mechanic thing? I mean, did you decide your next project, I'm not doing, books and characters, I'm doing something completely...
No, I'm doing another book. I'm doing another book right now, but it's a completely different story, completely different setting. You know what I'm saying? Like the adventure book system, like the way that we envisioned it is that you can tell a completely different story each time you release an adventure book, but you have some of the shared DNA. So people who've played one of them will kind of know how they play, and so it's easy to learn and easy to pick up and learn.
Is that exciting to be doing something different, but still kind of knowing the foundations behind it? You're able to push it out in different directions, take different risks with it, and things like that.
Well, it allows me to focus on the story, not having to redesign, the game from the ground all the way up each time, but focus on the story. Although with this one, there's some different mechanics. It's not dice driven like Stuffed Fables and Comanauts, so it's got this different kind of set of mechanics, and it's a lot of fun. I can't talk about it, but it's a lot of fun.
I'm not gonna. It's like I get this. You can understand. I get this a lot. I've got this fantastic, exciting project. I cannot tell you a word about it, anything at all. Otherwise, I'm gonna get kind of sad. Is there a different genre? I mean, I'm assuming there is like a book of, it's got kind of JH's ideas on it. And is there kind of other stuff that you're thinking about? I mean, have you got a worker placement kind of tucked away? Is there a little part? I mean, I was speaking to Isaac about his Corn on the Cob party game, but I was wondering, is there...
I haven't heard of that one.
Is there a Find the Cheese party game? No. For me, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a worker placement kind of person, or you're not going to see like a heavy Euro or anything coming from me. What I do like are adventure games. I like to transport people, take them completely out of their normal lives and let them have an adventure. And so my games are probably always going to be story-based, adventure-based games, one way or another, visually appealing, immersive, thematic kind of things. You're probably not going to see any sort of Euro games or anything coming out of me. I'd play it though if you put it out there. If you put it out there, I'd play it. Obviously, if Isaac put it out there, I'd be putting it.
It probably wouldn't be very good. It probably wouldn't be very good. So you'd be playing it just for the.
It'd be. I would do it anyway. Just for this. I mean, is there games out there? Do you get a lot of time to play yourself? I mean, are you constantly kind of playing kind of board games on a regular basis? Do you have like regular group sessions that you go to?
We have a board game night every Tuesday night here at the offices, the Plaid Hat offices. And we have, friends and outsiders who come in and play games We play regular published games of ours. We play published games from other companies, but we also play prototypes that we're working on too. And but most of it is just to sort of always weekly reconnect with our love of board games by playing board games, exploring different other board games out there that we're interested in. I really like I love Above and Below and Near and Far and those kinds of games. Obviously, since they have story, they got me because I love that. But I also like I love that new Martin Wallace game, the Wildlands.
Okay.
I love really love Gaslands by Osprey Games, the car battling one where you use little Hot Wheels. We love that around here.
I've seen John Gilmore.
Yeah.
I think he was posting up models he was like putting together, and for a while that's all you saw was, I'm getting my gang together, and look, do you think this looks ridiculous? And it's like it's like a Corvette with a dinosaur sellotape to the top of it.
I love that
kind of attack.
Fun stuff. Yeah. My taste in games tends to be more beer and pretzels kind of thing,
Yeah.
I like really, really simple mechanics, and I like to feel like I'm on an adventure of some kind.
Do you do stuff outside the kind of the hobby? I mean, are you a kind of do you go out and do a bit of fishing? Are you a kind of a wonderful ice skater?
Outside of work, I find that my family keeps me busy. My wife and kids. My kids are teenagers now.
Wow.
And I just like to. I work out, so I like to exercise, and I love to
Long
cook.
walks to the beach.
I cook a lot.
Yeah.
I love pina coladas.
Are you like the cool dad? Are you like the cool dad? Do the vote like all come round to your house because you're like the board game designer dad?
Other kids might say, "Man, that Hawthorne dad is really cool," but my kids don't think I'm cool at all. At all.
You're just like moving cardboard about, Dad. Why can't you be doing something else, like being a postman or something?
You can't have an ego living in my household with my kids. They will tear it down. I come to work just to get built back up again.
So what you really wanted is, if we give out your email address, what you want is people send you just nice emails about how much they like your stuff.
No, it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be adoration at all. Just something nice would be fine. They don't even have to like me. They could be like, I like people like you. I'm not sure who you are. I'm not sure if I like you, but I like people that are like you, or something like that.
And if we target this round about Thursday, Friday, so we're kind of building you up for the weekend.
Oh, okay, good, yeah.
So you've got enough, your level of adoration's up here, so hopefully as your kids strip you down when you get down to Monday, you've still got a slight bit of kind of self kind of confidence. Is there? I mean, the games that are coming out just now, obviously, like things like Wingspan and stuff like that. You know, it's getting, it's coming from nowhere, and Elizabeth Hargrave seems to have played a blinder with this game. Everybody's talking about it. There's a lot of kind of buzz going about it as well. Is there games that you're seeing at the moment that you would like to get to the table yourself that you'd like to kind of get your hands on?
Yes. Fantasy Flight Games has a new Lord of the Rings game coming out.
Yes,
later this year. I really want that. I also want their new Star Wars one about the Outer Rim.
Outer Rim, yeah.
And I'm friends with Corey Koneska. I can't believe I'm saying that, because I used to just be a fan of his, but now I kind of feel like we're chums now. And so I just love I love the way his mind works, and I'm so happy and thrilled that I'm able to see him every once in a while and talk to him, and also enjoy being a fan of his games. I love anything by Nikki Valens. I love that Legacy of Dragonhold is a really cool game. I don't know if you played that one. It's all story, yet, dude. It's right up my alley. It's all story. I like playing that solo because my family, my kids, my son's into video games, my daughter's into boys, and we're just sometimes I just sit down and I'll play a game alone.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have Mage Knight there.
I've heard that's a good one.
Ready to go. It's meant to be a good 3 or 4 hours of your time, and there's only so much I can get away with doing nothing in the house. But if I've got this out, I can just say, look, this is complicated. This is something I've got to work with. This is me giving myself some kind of me time, which is fine.
Awesome.
Is there any games you'd like to add to your collection? I mean, I joked with Isaac, and he says, "Well, look, I can get hold of anything because we're part of Asmodee, so I just have to go like that, and games appear." But is there anything that you would like to see on the shelf in your collection? If you could have any kind of games at all, you would like to add?
I'm not a person who's all big into acquisition, Yeah. So I don't have like a very big game shelf, I don't actually have a shelf that that like you see people taking pictures of their game shelves and stuff. But there's some cool games coming out. There's one that involves, it's a dice placement game. The Reckoners. Have you played this one?
Yes, I've heard of it. Yeah,
have you played it yet?
Been on the show. I've not played it yet, but the guys that did it were on the show. Yeah,
it's very, very, very cool, very interesting. It's really mostly just battling, and there's a lot of pressure. It's a co-op, and there's a lot of pressure put on. Mm-hmm. But I just love the way the dice work, and everything is just so deluxe and stuff. So that would be a really cool one to own. I think it's just such a high quality, product. It's amazing. I got to play Root a little while back. I thought that was really neat. Have you played that one?
I have got all of the Root.
Okay, so it's really it's appealing on many different levels. You know what I'm saying? Like on its innovation, it's appealing, and on its on the way that it models these different, cultural struggles and stuff. It's really kind of cool. I love the art direction on it is amazing. It's just really neat.
I like the fact when Patrick was talking about, there's so many factions out there that aren't there. It's like going back to you talking about kind of Hero Quest again. He says there's so many factions that he has got ready to go.
Oh, good.
To add to Root, because it's that's one of these things where the fans have been able to produce kind of their own stuff as well, which is fairly kind of cool.
There's a game coming out called Tidal Blades. Have you heard of this one?
Yes,
there's a Kickstarter.
I've heard it.
I got to play it at PAX U.
That's James Hudson.
It's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
I've got that coming, actually.
Oh, you're gonna love it. I think it's just fantastic. It's I didn't buy it, but Isaac bought it, so we'll be playing it around here at the office. So
it's that Isaac and his acquisitions. Says I can get man says can get any board game he wants. Still goes out and buys board games.
Yeah, it's funny.
If people want to keep an eye on what you're doing in the future, where can we find you on the interweb nets?
Twitter is probably the best place to find me. I'm mice_guy on Twitter. I'm the mice guy. And we're really approachable on our Plaid Hat Games website. We have all of our contact information under our contacts tab on our Plaid Hat Games website. So anybody who wants to contact one of us can just send us an email directly to us. I answer all my emails. So anybody who wants to reach out and has anything that they want to talk about, I love chit-chatting with people. I'm a people person.
Especially if you build Jerry up as well. If you're going to say, just tell just say hello. Just say hello, wonderful. Compliment him on what he's wearing. He's got the weekend coming up here. Make him feel loved. No, I mean we'll put links. Obviously, we'll put the links for Comanauts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Plaid Hat Games. We'll put that there. Twitter will put that all on the show notes so that we've got kind of notes to show. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
Pleasure.
It's been
pleasure having me.
Interesting chat. For everybody out there who wants to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to the Googles, search We're Not Wizards. You'll find us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and our website. All these wonderful places. If you like what you've listened to tonight, you can find us on all of the normal podcast catchers, your Stitchers, your Spreakers, your Acasts, your Googles, your Spotifys, anywhere where you get your podcast of choice. If you like what you've listened to tonight, then you can do two things. First of all, maybe tell somebody else. Anybody that's a big fan of Jerry's work, then mention he's been on this podcast. The other thing you can do is you can go into Apple Podcasts and you can drop us a subscription, you can drop us a rating, you can drop us a review. If you are going to give us a rating or review, don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed, but don't give us 1 star because it makes us cry. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average and we're just a little bit average. For the person who's not been average tonight, it's rather wonderful, rather fantastic. His Royal Miceness, heir to the throne of cheese, the man of dreams.
Don't
Mr.
let him
Jerry
lie to you. I'm average.
He's definitely a 6. It's Mr. Jerry Hawthorne. Thank you very much again for coming on. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Jerry?
No.
No, you're the mice guy. So, I mean, you can't be,
What is Cards Against Humanity? What does that card say? We're sorcerers, yes.
Don't. Let's not finish this on a sour note. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Jerry. Say goodbye, Jerry.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s. And I said this about Isaacs. Just go and check out Jerry's stuff because I've got Mice and Mystics and it's fantastic. And Andy Lewis from Polyhedron Collider says Stuff Fables is fantastic. And we're all going to be looking at the Comanauts because it sounds fantastic. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.